During last year, BBC North West Tonight decided to create a true reality segment at how the NHS has been challenged with the pandemic. Tonight, we meet Jackie, who is healthcare and housekeeper at Wythenshawe Hospital, who has been in the frontline since the start of the pandemic.
Hi, my name's Jackie. I've been in the NHS for 20 years, recently become a housekeeper on Delivery Suite. When I first started, I came to complex health, elderly care. Life in the NHS hasn't changed in the slightest. It's become more and more demanding, more pressure, and to ensure that the safety of the patient and yourself is utmost. To ensure that all PPE equipment is around at all times for the safety of the staff and the patients, ensuring that hands are washed regularly. This was all something new to the NHS when the pandemic came along. We were having to learn as we went along. But eventually we did conquer it by making sure that all PPE equipment was worn at all times.
How would you say the pandemic has affected your everyday life?
It put a big strain on my life, mentally and physically. You came home exhausted, you were doing longer hours, you were worried that you'd done everything correctly, making sure all the staff and patients were safe. It did put a strain in the fact that when I was coming home from work, I didn't want to pass the virus on to my loved ones, so I myself would isolate, shut myself off from my family, just to ensure that they were safe, because I didn't want to pass anything on to them. We were working longer hours, coming home exhausted, and then perhaps going back the next day and the same thing again, but ensuring that everybody was safe, patients were safe, and again, families couldn't come into the hospital because of the virus. When the virus lifted slightly, we very, very slightly let relatives come in, but one person at a time. It still did put a strain on the ward, but then lockdown came again, so we stopped the patients having relative visit because it was safer for them and the patient.
The hospital's been coping with the pandemic.
The NHS have had a massive big strain. They're barely coping. Staff are having to be pulled in one direction to another area. The virus is getting larger and the staff remaining the same amount. They're exhausted. We've seen patients being treated in ambulances because they just can't get through the doors of the A&E because it's full to capacity, and the staff are trying their utmost to treat as many as possible. It's been a strain on cancer patients because it's had to be on hold because of the pandemic for the safety of the patient, but obviously the patients are worried that they're not going to get the treatment, and it's putting a strain on the patient plus on the NHS.
How have the hospital been coping with the elderly and high risk?
The elderly and the most at-risk patients are too afraid to come through the doors of the hospitals for fear that they will catch the virus, which is having a knock-on effect to themselves. It's causing them mental health issues. They've got nobody to talk to, no support. They're just too afraid to just come to have the treatment, basically. And it is unfair that they have to be isolated, kept in their own homes, feeling lonely, vulnerable, but they do have to isolate to keep themselves safe. It's having a knock-on effect on their mental health regarding there's no support for them because they just can't leave the house because they're too afraid of the virus.
Here we meet 76-year-old Carol, who sadly was diagnosed with cancer back in March. Here we get to see how she has been coping with the pandemic.
Hello, my name's Carol. I am 76 years old, and I am so bad the way this has affected me. I used to be so outgoing. This time last year, I was going 3 times a week swimming, going for coffee with my friends, going camping with the trailer tent, and now I'm absolutely stuck in the house, frightened to go out because of this pandemic, and it's just taking its toll. I feel totally locked up, and that's how I feel.
What would you say you have struggled with most during the pandemic?
Well, 12 months ago, just before the last lot, I got a double whammy and was diagnosed with secondary breast cancer. Now, I had to deal with it, but where my appointments was concerned, I have to have the doctor phone me over the phone. I've been to the appointment for a blood test once a month, but it's so informal. I have to just go in, get my blood done and come out. Then the next day, the doctor phones me with the results so that I can carry on with my next chemotherapy. And this has been going on now since March. So not only am I fastened in, locked in, I've got this to deal with as well. So it's not good, but I've got to deal with it. And I've got to be fair, the doctors have been good with the fact that they phone me, but that is all the appointments that I've had to be over the phone. I've not had a face-to-face one in 12 months with the doctor, but this is how it's going. And I just feel so tied and locked up. I was desperate one day and had to go and see my grandchildren, and it was over the fence and shouting to them, and it upset me because I like the close contact with my grandkids, and it couldn't be, and I know it couldn't, but this is how it's going on for me, and there's nothing at all I can do about it. I've just got to go with the way it is. I'm frightened to go out of the door. I'm frightened to go to the shops. I was never like this. I used to go on the bus, I used to go on the tram, I used to go in my car, and all that stopped, all gone. So this is affecting me in more ways than one, but everybody's got to abide by the rules and go with what we're told to do, and we'll be fine. And I have every faith in the NHS and what they've done.
Out there for the NHS staff.
As a team, there is support, we have each other. We can talk to staff, support each other in the fact that we'd like to think that we could recognise if staff weren't coping with the pandemic, if they were feeling mentally drained. The support is out there for the staff. You just have to speak to managers. They can then pass you on for some counselling, of some support of some kind. But we do have each other, and as a team, that's what the NHS need, teamwork. Now that there is a vaccine for the virus, it's more important than ever that we pull together, listen and learn, and adhere to all the requests that are made. You must understand that this virus isn't going away anytime soon.